Hey guys, what up? It's the Tominator, and yeah, as you can see here, I posted a video earlier today. It's been taken down due to copyright claim by American Media Inc., whoever the hell that is. So yeah, it's true, I did basically steal the stream, the live stream from last night. I recorded that shit, I played it back, not the full thing, only a 4-minute clip, but apparently that was enough for somebody to raise a copyright claim for me and then YouTube to remove my video. So I did notice earlier today, after about an hour or so of posting, it just got frozen at 480 views, even though people continued to comment, and it was clearly well over that a number of views. I don't know what it was, but it didn't tell me. So YouTube was probably investigating at that time, and then a couple hours later, earlier in the afternoon, I get this message. So it's unfortunate. I was just about to upload another video talking about the second call out, featuring the rest of the top 8. And, I get this message. So needless to say, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to get a second copyright strike because, yes, so this is the deal. If you have 3 or more strikes within a 3-month period, they can disable your account. So I don't even want to deal with that. I don't really think I have much of a case for fighting this, to be honest. I mean, technically, yeah, man, I did steal their content. Oh, no. I guess I'm just going to have to make do with stealing photos like everybody else, because apparently that's acceptable. Louis Marco's been doing it for years. He's making a living off of it. So I guess video footage is a no-go, but photos are fine. I don't know, man. It doesn't make any sense. It's definitely not legal to take photos either if you look that up, but everybody does it. So I guess I'll just blend in with the crowd. I would prefer the video footage because these photos are absolute ass. I mean, this is not even HD. It looks like someone took this shit with like a flip phone from 10 years ago. Like, what the fuck is this, man? You're telling me you can't even provide HD photos? And these are some of the best ones I could find, mind you. I mean, all the major bodybuilding outlets like Muscular Development, they only had the individual photos, none of the comparisons. Flex Magazine, I mean, they had a handful of photos that weren't bad, but then they plaster their huge, like, oversized logo in the corner of every pic that kind of obscures the guys, so not a big fan of that. So I ended up going with this NPC site, and yeah, it looks like their photos were taken by a drunk with like a 15-year-old phone, so I don't know. But we're just going to have to make do with what we got. So the front double bicep in this first call out, so I'm going to be reiterating some of the stuff that I already said in that first video, so if you've watched that, you probably don't need to watch this one as well, but for those of you who didn't see my take on what was going on in the prejudging last night and are interested in hearing it, so let's go through it again. Okay, so Bonac, Phil Heath, Big Ramy, from left to right here in the front double bicep. This is your top 3 guys, according to the judges, and I agree with that, actually, it has to be said. But, yeah, in this pose right here, you can make a case for any of them winning it, I think, depending on your point of view. I mean, if you prefer the tighter waistlines and just the overall freaky mass, then Ramy's your guy. If you prefer kind of the more polished, complete look, slightly more aesthetic look, then Bonac for sure. And if you're kind of a blend of the two, and you don't mind a bit of a bubble gut, then Phil Heath's your man in the center. And I got to say, though, for my money, aside from the midsection, I think Phil does look the best of the 3. I mean, the midsection is a big blemish, but in terms of the limbs, in terms of the legs and the arms, I think he's got the best of the bunch here. I mean, Ramy's got those huge wheels, but they're just not very separated, and the ratio of his thighs to his calves is terrible, so his proportions are a little off there in the lower body. He does have probably the most streamlined waist, definitely not the most narrow. I mean, even Phil's is narrower here, as you can see, but his waist is more streamlined, it's more tapered. There's no kind of distension or bloating, so very commendable there. I think he deserves a lot of props for that, to come in so huge and maintain his waistline. So yeah, like I said, you can make a case for any of them. I still would probably lean towards Phil, but it's hard to, man. It's difficult with that nasty herniated belly button. So yeah, this is almost shades of what we saw in 2014. It's not that bad, though. And for the record, I don't think it's going to prevent him from winning. It's not, like, if he could do it in 2014, if he could look worse than this and still win and retain the title, why wouldn't the judges let him do it again? So that's the way I look at it. In the front lat spread, though, there's no debate. Ramy's absolutely destroying them. He's demolishing these two. He's just so much bigger and wider. He's got that massive frame, the tremendous width through the shoulders that I don't even think Jay Cutler could stand up to. And yeah, he's just dominating these guys. He's notoriously more narrow bodybuilders like Phil Heath and William Bonac. And I would honestly put Phil in last in this one, man. If I was going to give him a little bit of a pass on that first front double bicep pose, I'm not going to do so here this time around. So I think Bonac edges him out because he's got a little bit better quad sweep, and that could just be down to the way he's positioning his feet, mind you. But still, it's all about illusions in bodybuilding. So I'm just looking at what I have to work with here, what I'm given to see. So better quad sweep and a better tighter midsection. So more definition, less bloating and distension. And yeah, I mean, none of them are flexing their abs or anything, but at least the other two guys kind of have it more in check. Even Phil's isn't terrible, but it's just not really champion worthy, I don't think. In the side chest, here's where Phil kind of regains some ground. I think that he wins this pose, not by much, mind you, but overall, I just feel like he's the most complete from head to toe and the sharpest and everything. William looks good. I thought he actually looked better in the video footage as opposed to this photo, so he looks a little softer here than I remember seeing him, but that could just be down to the lack of quality here that we're seeing in this crappy picture. Big Ramy, one thing I neglected to mention in my video review earlier is that, holy shit, his chest is huge, man. It's so thick, it's like twice the thickness of either of these other two guys, and they both have decent chests in their own right, Bonac and Heath. But Ramy's is like Ronnie Coleman level thick, man. It's just amazing looking here in this pic. So for that reason, I could easily see him winning this pose, but it's just kind of a crappy angle for him maybe. Maybe he's, like I said earlier, he wasn't standing in the right spot on the stage in terms of the lighting and everything. So there's a bit of a disadvantage there perhaps. So I think he has the potential to win this, but I don't think he's winning it based on this one still pic here. In the back double bicep, man. So this is where things get real interesting because now it's a lot closer than it used to be. Phil used to run away with this pose, and it was his bread and butter along with the most muscular. Now, yeah, these guys are definitely closing the gap. Big Ramy is just dwarfing them with his crazy size, and for that reason alone, when the conditioning's pretty close, having that much of an advantage in the mass, that should definitely play into your favor. So I could see a solid case for people like legitimately saying that Ramy wins this comparison, and I see where you're coming from with that. I can even see people saying that Bonac wins it because he's probably the sharpest of all of them, and you could argue the most aesthetic. I wouldn't really label Bonac as an aesthetic bodybuilder per se. I think he looks a little bit too squashed to be considered aesthetic. I think his lines are a little bit off, but he has some pleasing shape to his muscle bellies. I won't deny that. And compared to, people like Ramy and Phil, yeah, he probably is the most aesthetic of the three of them. So Phil still looks very good, though. So this one's super close. I don't even know. I'd have to see more than one pick. In my video comparison, I think I'd probably still give Phil the edge, but it's very slight, if only because his lower body's a little bit sharper than Ramy's still. And rear lat spread, though, this one I think is a little bit more clear cut that Phil is winning, even though Ramy's still just dwarfing them with his size and his width factor. He just looks a little too smooth in comparison, especially in the lower body, but even in terms of the definition and the detail through the back. Like, look at the center of Phil's back. You just see a lot kind of more, it just looks more cut up, it looks more ripped than what we're seeing with Ramy. Ramy's looks a little bit smoother, right? And Bonac, again, I feel like he looks too squashed in this photo, in this pose. It's like his torso should be a couple inches longer, like his lats just kind of insert right down into his ass almost, and it just looks a little funny to me, and I think it actually kind of hurts his V-taper a little bit, if that makes any sense. Whereas someone like Phil, I think, in this pose actually looks more aesthetic than Bonac now. And yeah, Phil, as many of you will point out, is not very aesthetic anymore at this point in his career. But again, the sharpness of Phil and the completeness from head to toe, I got to give him this pose. Probably Ramy in second and Bonac in third, but it's close between those two. And okay, I could not even find a good side tricep of those three, nor a good ab and thigh, so I'm going to use this opportunity to show you the second call out. So this is featuring Shawn, Rhoden, Nathan-Dexter, Jackson, Brandon Currie, and Roelly Winklaar. So these are the guys who should be rounding out the top 8. And the fact that Dexter, Shawn, and Brandon Currie were all in the top 6 originally when they called out Phil and Ramy and Bonac indicates that these are the top 6 guys, with the Asha and Roelly Winklaar fighting for 7th spot. But in reality, I think that It's going to be kind of a toss-up and a fight between Dexter Jackson and Brandon Currie there in the middle for 4th place, with the loser taking 5th. And then Rhoden is going to have an actual battle on his hands with the Asha beside him there for 6th spot. So I don't think Rhoden's actually got 6th spot on lock. And depending on how it goes tonight, I could definitely see the Asha, just slipping in there. And if Rhoden doesn't sharpen up a bit and deflate in the midsection, then we could be in for an even bigger upset than what we already have here. So I gotta say, man, I'm super impressed with Brandon Currie. I'm shocked that he was able to replicate his outstanding conditioning that he brought at the New Zealand Pro this year and bring it here. I did not expect that. I was hoping he'd be able to do it, but I definitely did not expect it, so that's a pleasant surprise. Roelly Winklaar, on the flip side, I'm very disappointed in. I was really rooting for this guy. I thought that he could really build off the momentum he gained last year, just looking like a real freak and kind of bringing this unprecedented conditioning that we'd never seen him with. But he kind of missed the mark, and he flopped a little bit. Not as badly as someone like Cedric, mind you. That's a whole other story. Maybe I'll talk about it later. But yeah, Roelly, he didn't do his homework, let's just say, and he came in too big and watery, and he didn't nail his conditioning, so I think he's going to pretty much be lucky to take 8th in this contest. Dexter the Blade, man, he's just Mr. Consistency as always, but people say he's not fading, but I think he gradually, very, very slightly is year to year. People say he doesn't change. He does. I mean, it's just so slight and gradual that you don't even notice. But if you go back 10, 12 years, even 5 or 6 years with Dexter, but definitely like if we're talking about like 2008, 2009 when he was the Mr. Olympia winner around that time, his physique looks noticeably different. He looked way more aesthetic back then, and now he's still reasonably aesthetic, still has a reasonably in-check midsection, but it's not as good as it used to be, okay? So his lines aren't as good as they used to be, his aesthetics aren't as good as they used to be. He does have that kind of old man, grainy, dense muscle now, so he's got that playing into his hand, but he doesn't have the shape and the lines and the prettiness that he used to have in his physique. And in the ab and thigh, again, I'll show you these guys. It has to be noted that all these guys on stage in the 4th to 8th spot in the second call-out here have better ab and thigh poses than the guys in the top 3, which is just weird, man. Like, even Bonac and Big Ramy, I don't think that they had very good abs in this pose. And all of these guys are exhibiting more definition in the midsection than any of those guys. So it's a little bit weird. It's almost like the abs don't count at Mr. Olympia anymore, it seems. Even Roelly Winklaar, for God's sake, looks better than any of those guys in the top 3 in this pose, at least in this picture right here. And Roelly, for all that he didn't come in very well conditioned this year and looks worse than last year, one thing that is an improvement that is better than last year is his quad separation. You can see it even right here in this photo. He didn't have that last year, so that's kind of interesting. Rhoden, as bad as his bubble gut situation is this year, and it is pretty bad. It might even be worse than Phil's. But the one thing that he's got that Phil doesn't is a proper set of abs. So he's got that nice 6-pack or 8-pack, whatever you want to call that. He's got well-developed ab muscles, right? And he's got a genetically narrow waistline. So even if he's got a lot of distension and bloating, he still looks pretty good in this ab and thigh pose. Same with Dexter Jackson, although his midsection, for what it's worth, is not that distended this year. It's pretty good. But he's always had a very strong ab and thigh pose. Brandon Currie looks money in this pose as well. Nathan-Dexter is also looking pretty respectable. So they all look pretty good, I gotta say. But back to the top 3. So this is the most muscular. Again, I couldn't find a picture of them hitting it simultaneously, but this one will have to do. So we got Big Ramy showcasing one of the best hands-on hit most musculars ever, in my opinion. He's just got such tremendous width through the delts, and he's really showcasing that here in this position. And, also showing off the massive wheels. There's just crazy size on those thighs, as we all know. Bonac's still transitioning into the crab pose. He took his time getting into it, but he looks real good. I really underestimated him this year. I didn't think he'd be able to improve on last year's 5th place finish, but looks like he's definitely poised to do so. So he's been probably like the dark horse of the show, the guy who no one was really expecting to be a real threat to the top 3, certainly. I don't think anybody was predicting that. But man, my hat is off to the guy. He looks phenomenal. Phil Heath Looks good, as always, in this pose. It's always been a strong pose for him, but I don't think he looks as good as he did last year, even. I think he's looked better in it in years previous. Again, the midsection's looking a little bit too bloated for my taste. Still, like I said earlier, I think that the fact that nobody really decisively beat Phil here, no one's conclusively beating him, means that he's going to retain the title. So that's typically the way that the Olympia works. You kind of have to knock out the champion to beat him. So that's kind of dumb, in my opinion, and I'm sure many people will disagree. You might not like that, but that's just the way it seems to work. So expect him to hold on to that title, at least for this year. We'll see next year what's up, but yeah, I think he's going to stave him off this year and tie Arnold Schwarzenegger, but we'll see tonight. So anyway, it's getting a little long, so thanks for watching, guys, and for supporting my channel. Let me know if you know anything about this copyright situation. Do I have any kind of claim or you know, any ability to argue this stuff? I don't think I do, but correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe there's some loopholes I can try to appeal it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe and like for more. I'm going to be covering more stuff definitely tomorrow as well. I'll be making videos, so until then, I'm the Tominator signing off, and I'll be back.